G'day mate, 40 here. Welcome to Bronte Beach. On the way from Coogee through Clovelly to Bronte, and we'll go to Modelrama, otherwise known as Tamarama Beach, where the models used to hang out. Then we'll go all the way to Bondi, the burning core of Orthodox Judaism in Sydney. Anyway, I've been listening on my walk. I subscribe to Apple News Plus. I've been listening on my walk to a Time magazine cover story on who is Kari Lake, who seems likely to win governor in Arizona. And the turning point in her life apparently was in December of 2020. She went to church. She started going to a new evangelical Christian church, a Bible church. Previously, she'd been Catholic. And the pastor preached that what you do for work is important, but don't let it change you. I'm just thinking, how naive and silly is that? Like a lot of the pious things that clergy intone in their sermons, right? Sound good. And sermons are supposed to be all about edification, right? But that which sounds edifying, that which sounds pious, and that which sounds uplifting is frequently nonsense. And this is an example of absolute nonsense. Of course, your job is going to change who you are. It can't help but change who you are. Everything you do affects you. Like how you spend your time affects you. What you do for a living affects you. Whether you're a landscape architect, or a home architect, or a clerk at Kmart, or a rabbi, or an accountant, it affects you. From my years working in landscaping, I've never looked at landscaping the same. I always start looking at how it's going to drain. How's the water going to drain out of this place? Then working for years as a journalist, it affects you. You start thinking about who, what, when, where, why. I'm very good if you ask me about who, what, when, why questions. What was I doing during a particular week or month in my life? And my background in journalism has well equipped me for asking who, what, when, where, why questions. Lawyers, right? Their work trains them to think in terms of evidence and in terms of constructing a narrative. So there was a history professor, a Marxist history professor, who wrote this highly acclaimed book, but the book was taken apart by another history professor who showed he used really shoddy research techniques. He used really shoddy supporting evidence in his book. That his book really was a tendentious lawyer's brief masquerading as a work of history. And so this critical history professor made it his mission to drum this other history professor out of the profession. And so when this tendentious history professor, Marxist, got drummed out of the history profession, where did he go? He became a lawyer, right? He was much better suited for arguing a case in his briefs. So yeah, the helicopters come by the beaches regularly. So as I was checking out from Woolies today, the checkout clerk said there are a lot of sharks out there. So apparently all the recent rains flooded into the ocean, bringing lots of delicious things to eat. And the sharks have become attracted to that. And so maybe the sharks are getting closer inland. So about 3 miles south of here, some dude was eaten and killed by a shark just after I left last year. Apparently he was in a wetsuit, and the thinking is that the shark confused him for a seal and made a meal out of him. Haven't seen any sharks yet, but it did take me aback having the checkout clerk lady at Woolies say, lots of sharks out there. So everything you do affects you. Like the news you watch, the YouTube streams you watch, the podcasts you listen to. So I hold that they affect you, but on the other hand, I don't hold by the conventional mainstream perspective of the zombie bite theory of information, that if you just get exposed to a particular podcast or a book or an article or a Twitter account, that's just going to turn you into a zombie. These accounts just going to get their fangs into you and infect you with their misinformation and radicalize you. No one gets radicalized without their consent, right? If you're buying into someone's social media lies, right, that's a consensual act. Wow, those 3 helicopters have just come by. I wonder what's going on. That's unusual. Normally you see about 1 helicopter every couple of hours. Now we've had 3 in 5 minutes. So yeah, if you're getting radicalized online, that's a consensual act. Getting radicalized by a book, all right? You read Kevin McDonald's Cultural Critique and you quit your $120,000 a year job like Patrick Little, right? That's consensual. You consented. The authorities have been alerted that Luke Ford is spreading misinformation online, and so they're sending out helicopters. So I don't buy the zombie bite theory of information. On the other hand, I don't believe that the online world is completely separate from the real world. And I don't believe that the things that you do and the things that you listen to should have no effect on you. Of course they're going to have an effect, right? A good way of getting a bead on who you are is to look at who your 3 closest friends are. It's going to provide a pretty good reflection of who you are. And what you listen to does affect you, but it doesn't transform you without your consent. So if someone in your life is continually telling you lies, you're consenting to that. You may not be cognizant of it, but we are evolutionarily designed to be extremely good at detecting and disarming when other people are trying to manipulate us. If we weren't good at detecting when other people try to manipulate us, we'd be dead. We wouldn't be alive as a species. Right? We are not evolutionarily adapted to be gullible. We did not evolve to be gullible. So it's extremely hard to manipulate other people. Well, it's extremely easy to fool yourself in any direction you want to go.